Hey lovelies, it's Kate. Welcome to another speed build. In this speed build, I'm building a contemporary mansion on a 50 by 50 lot in Oasis Springs. I have built multiple modern homes in this world. For some reason, for me, a modern architecture and the desert are kind of connected for some reason. I started off by basically digging a hole into the ground. I built a room at the bottom and then I added another one. So I kind of plan to have a area in the front that is lower than the rest of the house, and at the bottom down there I'm going to build just basically a barbecue room. So it's a very fancy kitchen with a barbecue grill, so you can go to the inside and put something on the barbecue grill. It's kind of like a mansion thing, you know. I just thought that it would look good, and the room at the bottom is not directly connected to the rest of the house, so I figured that it would kind of make sense to add something to that room that can be used while being on the outside. I didn't want to have a random bathroom down there or something, so some type of luxurious barbecue room would make sense, I thought. And I started to kind of build a little slope so the Sims would be able to walk up. And I also decided to hide the terrain using some plants, and these windows are city living windows. I just like the color, so beautiful. And I also added a little round section on the right side. I used a round piece of foundation for that. And for this build, I was just going for a very kind of basic modern style with lots of details. So I added these little room dividers. I think they're room dividers, or maybe they aren't. I think they're actually supposed to go on a wall, so they are probably just wall decorations, but they kind of look like room dividers. And I just added them to the little balcony in the front. And here we have another room that is kind of separated from the rest, and this will be just some type of entrance area, kind of like a hallway. I'm going to include a little bar and a sofa, as you will see later, and then you can enter the garden. But of course, your Sims can always use the main entrance. This is like some type of side entrance that is leading to the garden, and it's kind of a very fancy area where you can have a drink and you can kind of greet your guests. Maybe this is kind of the story that I had in mind for this, and I'm going to expand the slope that I started to build in the front, right in front of the barbecue area. So the slope, a little pathway, is going to lead up to this entrance area that I just mentioned, so it's all connected. Also, quick update, I plan to upload the Let's Build this week finally. I know that some of you have waited for this, and I also plan to upload another tutorial slash guide. I will be offline for 2 days this week though, Tuesday and Wednesday, because I will finally have better internet after that, and for this kind of switch I will be offline. But I'm so excited because at the moment it easily takes 2.5 hours or something when I want to upload a longer video, and then in the worst case scenario sometimes something goes wrong with the upload and then it just takes ages because I have to upload again. Now I will be much more flexible. When I want to upload something, I can just quickly do that. It will be much better. I'm really happy about that, so that's kind of a good thing. But back to the build. As you just saw, I added more and more rooms to this house. I usually like to work in section, so I don't really like to work on a floor plan and just kind of lay out the whole design of the house. I kind of like to start somewhere and then I add more and more, and I kind of work out the shape of the build step after step, section by section. And then I decided to add a little kind of curved path in the front. I don't even know what this is. This is not anything like the typical curved path that I sometimes like to build. It's very different. The foundation situation was kind of confusing there. And then I decided to add some stairs on the left side, so it's all well connected. Your Sims can enter the little barbecue section down there by walking down the stairs on the left side, or they can use the slope that I mentioned earlier that I'm going to add. I think I'm going to work on that in a second. And here the terrain was kind of, I don't know, something was wrong, and I couldn't raise it, and then I don't know, I moved the lot and then it worked. It was a bit confusing, and I just used the terrain paint, so I was able to kind of lay out the shape. And maybe you remember my last speed build, I said that I had a weird phase back then where I used tons of rocks to hide the terrain and all that. Yeah, we've entered that phase again, obviously. I don't know, maybe talking about that kind of, I don't know, maybe it has just awoken some feelings and memories in me and I kind of went back to using a lot of rocks. But I feel like with this build it's kind of a good thing. It's totally over the top, of course, but I feel like the very modern, very kind of simple, non-organic design just kind of, I don't know, was asking for some type of plants and rocks to be added. I don't know, it just looks so much more natural. I kind of enjoy the contrast between the very modern design of the house and all these rocks and plants. I think it's a nice contrast, and you guys know that I just love to add tons of contrast to my houses. Sometimes I use different shapes, sometimes colors, and sometimes I just use 1000 rocks in combination with a very minimalistic design, so it's not minimalistic at all anymore. And these plants are just perfect if you want to hide any type of slope. This is a little base game bush, I think. Because of its shape, you can easily edit and just kind of hide the slope. And then I added more and more rocks because why not? I felt like I have kind of entered that territory and then there was kind of no stopping, and I just added more and more rocks. It was, I don't know. At this point, there was no turning back for me. I just added more and more. And then I added another section on the left side. And this house, by the way, has 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. 1 bathroom at the bottom, 1 at the top. And 1 bedroom is a kid's room, and the other 2 are just regular bedrooms for grown-ups or teenagers or whatever. So I would say that this house is perfect for a pretty normal sized sim family. It does look big and it's not small, but it's not a really huge mansion with tons of rooms. And here I added another little patio section or something in the front. There are tons of little areas where sims can just sit and hang out on the outside. I oftentimes like to include multiple kind of seating areas and living rooms into my mansion builds, because when you have a big mansion, there is usually something like a family room with a TV, and then you have more of a formal living room where you could kind of entertain guests and all that. But this build, as I said, isn't as big as it might look from the outside. I built this on a 50 by 50 lot, as I said, but there's a lot of landscaping going on around, and some sections are kind of slim. The hallway on top, for example, where I just added the brown wallpaper, the wood, so it's not really that big. I didn't include like multiple tons of living rooms to this build, but I included many of these beautiful balconies and seating areas on the outside. There's just plenty of space. I mean, mansions like this have like so much space and so many different areas where you can just, I don't know, sit and hang out and enjoy the view. No one really needs that, but it's just beautiful, so why not? And I just like to include that. Also, you kind of have to fill all the space, so it always makes sense to kind of do that. I decided to connect the front section, the little path that leads to the front door, with another little path where I used more rocks, of course more rocks, and I decided to place some Joshua trees in the front. In case you've missed it, the Sim Gurus added these beautiful trees to the debug menu, so if you own Strangerville, you can just enter the bb.show hidden object sheet and you can use these wonderful Joshua trees and some cacti and different cool things and rocks. This is a desert build. I figured it would be a good idea to add them. I still wanted to include some palm trees, so I kind of have a nice mix going on, because I don't know, palm trees just look so happy and lush and just so tropical and beautiful, so I felt like only adding these wonderful Joshua trees wouldn't make this build look as happy as I wanted it to look. I added some lights to the exterior and just changed up a couple of things basically. Also, fun little story, I recorded another part of my Let's Build series, and before that I had kind of changed the noise gate filter in OBS, and then I recorded a full hour only to notice that afterwards the audio was completely botched. Like sometimes it would just cut out and I had to record it again. This has never happened to me before. Like sometimes people lose a save file or some footage, you know, and now it has happened to me. This is a first, but I think this kind of happens at some point to you, so yeah, I'm not mad. I just felt stupid for kind of fiddling around with the noise gate filter. I should have just tested it before actually recording something, but no problem. Now I fixed it and everything is okay. I added a chimney to the outside. This is just a fun way to add more detail to the exterior. For this, you just build a small room, 2 tiles big, and then you just add one of the chimneys that are part of the game on top. And I also like to add a little fence around it, just so there is some type of edge going around it. I think it looks good. And here I'm adding a little basement, and you will see later that I'm going to make a little party area out of this, a little sunken party area that is part of the garden. I'm going to add some stairs later, so this is only connected to the garden, to the outside area. It has no connection to the interior itself. And I just added this little cube. It's the pristine pedestal. It's part of Get Famous, a little surface, a little table. And I love to add that just to add some detail, and you can create some kind of custom frame or edge around different things. More rocks and Joshua trees, and this is the beginning of the garden. I decided to add a kind of modern and minimalistic looking garden, and here I tried to connect the basement section to the interior, but then I didn't do that. So as I said earlier, this is only connected to the garden. I kind of made the little patio section bigger, and I added some astroturf and the garden is quite modern and minimalistic. Of course, I wanted the garden to fit to the house, to the exterior and interior, so it's very modern. I decided to add a cool little area over here. I used a method that I have explained in my most recent tutorial. I connected foundations of different heights using the foundation tool and the terrain tool. I just kind of left a small gap in between the foundations, and then I used the terrain tool to fill in that gap. And here I ran into some problems because I had some of the floor around it, and the floor prevented me from raising the terrain properly, so I kind of had to do it once and then again. So if you are interested in learning about that method, I'm going to link the tutorial playlist down below. It's my most recent tutorial, and I decided to add a hot tub over there. So this is really just a very fancy hot tub area. I really felt inspired by this kind of method, and I felt like this looks so over the top and so modern. I don't know, I just felt like it's cool. So you have a view over there, you can look over the fence technically and look into the distance. It's just, yeah, some type of raised patio area. I included some flower beds and really sectioned that off, and of course I had to include a pool to this build. A build like this just needs a proper pool in my opinion. First of all, it's located in the desert. Of course you can place this anywhere. You could place this on any 50 by 50 lot, but I built this in the desert, and it has a desert theme and all the Joshua trees, so hot weather, there just had to be a pool included. Also, a pool is always a good thing for any type of mansion builds, and here I just ran totally crazy with all the different flowers. This is kind of the only really crazy pop of color in this build, but I really wanted the pool to look tropical and very inviting, so I added this very tropical, colorful flower bed directly next to the pool. And here I'm just making some small little changes, adding another table to another seating area and another seating area in the front. These sofas and armchairs are part of Perfect Patio stuff, I think. Just so beautiful. They just have the look for the type of furniture that you would use on the outside, so it totally makes sense to use them on a patio, of course. And here I finally start to work on the interior. I decided to use lots of gray. Of course, I wanted the interior to be very modern and contemporary. I placed an island counter in the center. I then sized up a shelf and I raised it. So I placed it on top of the island counter, so it kind of, there's some type of overhang going on, and I added some glass tables and some chairs to it, so it kind of looks fancy, and the glass tables kind of make it functional again, because with the shelf on top, of course, it doesn't work properly anymore. So this was kind of a workaround, and I wanted to create something unique and creative for the interior, and I placed some tables at the wall. I just raised them. These are actually supposed to be placed on the ground. They are part of spa day, I think. I used the black ones, so I kind of have a nice color combination going on of very dark colors, a lot of black, a lot of gray, and a lot of wood. The wood adds a lot of warmth to the interior. I have used a lot of wood on the exterior already, as you saw, and I kind of really wanted to continue the style and theme on the interior. I decided to go with completely white walls. This is really minimalistic, and it was kind of hard to really make it look cozy and lived in and inviting, but I feel like all the wood really helped with this. I felt like using completely white walls kind of makes sense. It's very typical and classic for a very modern minimalistic interior, but I always felt like putting some kind of color on the wall or using some wood for my other modern builds, but this time I felt like really using some plain white, modern, minimalistic white walls, and I think it turned out quite well. Added some clutter to the kitchen, and the whole living space is very open. It's a open living space. I added the fireplace right where I placed the chimney on the outside, and I placed the TV right above the fireplace, and I love how open this is, and there are all these windows which make the whole place very bright. It's so sun flooded and beautiful, and there's just so much space, and I kind of love how the wall where the TV is placed on is kind of angled, diagonal, and then you have the kitchen right next to the living room. I also added a separate dining room area. As you will see, I felt like the glass tables that are placed at my kind of custom island counter, this is just a place where Sims can hang out and have some breakfast, for example. I really wanted that to be a separate dining room area that I'm going to build in a second. I added a little office corner to the living room. So this house, as I mentioned earlier, isn't really huge. Now you can see what I meant. This is not one of these houses where there's just so much space, and I don't know, this isn't really that big. There's a lot of space, but it's not overwhelmingly huge, I would say. I added some shelves to these walls, again, to add some warmth and just to fill in the walls, basically. As you will see, I'm going to place the dining table right in front of the front door. I kind of like that when you enter the room, and then you have the dining room table, and your guests can just kind of sit down immediately if they would like to, and you could bring them something to drink, for example. And I just added a little sofa to the corner. This is a sofa that is part of city living. I just love it. It's so modern, it's so beautiful, and I used the same rug that I used in the living room just to kind of tie it together so it's one cohesive look for the interior. And I also used different wood colors. I used the very dark and rich wood color for the shelves and the piano and all that, and then I also used some lighter wood colors, some type of birch wood color for the dining table, for example, and then for some little side tables. So I have a very nice, warm, organic mix going on. And this is the bathroom that is at the bottom of the house. I'm also going to build another one at the top, and it's going to have the same style. I kept it very minimalistic. I felt like this rug is perfect just to make it look cute, and it has some flowers on top, but it still looks very modern. And this is the office. As you saw, I added a little office corner, if you would like to call it that, to the living room, but I also felt like adding a proper office. Sims love spending time on the computer. They really do. That's all they do, basically. If you don't use any mods, you stop them from doing that. So I always feel like a proper office is something that your Sims really do appreciate. And this is the kids' room. I only included one kids' room to this build. The other two bedrooms are normal bedrooms for grown-ups, as I said, but of course you could always change that up if you would like to. I decided to go for a blue kind of color scheme for this. I combined different types of curtains. I just placed a shelf in between so I could just kind of hide the gap between them. and I added a computer and a desk and all that, a size down dollhouse because it's still functional this way, but it doesn't take up a lot of space. This is the master bedroom. I love that there are windows going all around the room. It's just so beautiful and bright. If you wake up in the morning, the sun is coming in and all that. It's very beautiful. Again, I used the same rug that I used in the living room to tie it together, so there's kind of the same style going on. Kept it very modern, and again, a mix of very dark colors and very bright and happy colors. Lots of brown. That bed is part of Seasons, I think. And I just created some type of area where Sims could sit and have a conversation, just like you have in very big master bedrooms, or maybe in a suite in a hotel, where you have a section where you have the bed and then another section where you just can sit and hang out. And this is the second bedroom. It's much smaller than the other one. It's much more simple. I decided to go for a blue color scheme once again, and there's some green in the mix and a lot of wood, and once again it's so beautiful and sun flooded. I just love that so much, and I added a table to that balcony area. The balcony can be accessed via the hallway, one of the many different seating areas that I mentioned. And this is the barbecue room that I mentioned earlier. It's so much fun. I had a lot of fun to build this. This is a cute little modern kitchen, but it doesn't have a stove. It has a barbecue grill. So yeah, when the weather isn't right, your Sims can just hang out there. I really wanted this to be completely luxurious, so someone could prepare a really bomb barbecue inside there, and then you could just bring it to the outside where the dining room table is located, and then you can just serve it to your guests or something. Once again, this is kind of the little backstory that I made up in my head. And this is a sunken party room, basically. I had no idea what I would like to do with that area. It's a basement, and I covered half of it with a glass roof, and then I included some stairs, and there is a dance floor and a little bar. This is, yeah, just a outside party area. So I thought it would be fun to just kind of cover half of it with a roof. The roof has the same width as the room next to it that I'm furnishing right now, so it all kind of makes sense when you look at it. This is the entrance area that I mentioned right in the beginning of the video, where Sims can walk in and then enter the garden. And this is almost it, guys. As always, I included some screenshots of the house and also a floor plan so you can get an overview. This house is available in the gallery. It's fully furnished, no CC as always, and I would like to say thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope that you have an amazing week, and if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and I hope that I see you in the next video. Bye bye.